What kind of person spends $500 million on a boat they use 11 days a year?
A superyacht is any private pleasure vessel exceeding 24 meters in length. That threshold sounds arbitrary until you realize it marks the point where a boat typically requires more specialized handling.
As of 2024, the superyacht industry generates approximately $22 billion annually. Monaco's harbour alone hosts vessels collectively worth a fraction of Iceland's GDP. This is not a niche hobby. The obsession is not new. In 1881, J.P. Morgan commissioned Corsair, a 185-foot steam yacht, to escape New York's social obligations while staying close enough to Wall Street to wire orders. Luxury and financial control fused from the start. Building a superyacht takes 3 to 5 years and involves numerous specialized tradespeople. Ocean Co. in the Netherlands, which built Jeff Bezos's Kourou, runs naval architects, aerospace engineers, and master cabinet makers simultaneously on a single hull. The hull on a 100-meter vessel can be incredibly expensive. Marine-grade aluminum, custom-milled teak decking, and blast-resistant glass for the owner's suite are standard line items. A chandelier aboard Azam, the world's longest private motor yacht, costs more than most families pay for their entire home. Here's the rule every yacht broker quietly whispers. Annual operating costs run approximately 10% of the vessel's purchase price. A $500 million yacht costs $50 million every single year just to keep floating. The engine never really turns off. Crew is the single largest operating line. A 100-meter yacht requires between 30 and 50 full-time crew members, captain, engineers, chefs, deckhands, and a dedicated interior team. Fuel is the second monster. A 2-week Mediterranean crossing can consume $500,000 in fuel alone, which explains why so many superyachts simply sit anchored in port. Here's where the economics turn strange. The Superyacht Group's 2022 Market Intelligence Report found that private owners use their vessels sparingly each year. $50 million in annual costs divided by those few days, $4.5 million per day of actual use.
So, if billionaires barely use them,
what are superyachts actually for? The answer, uncomfortable as it sounds, superyachts are not primarily transportation. They're 3-dimensional balance sheet assets that happen to float. Many superyachts are registered under flags of convenience. Cayman Islands, Marshall Islands, Malta, not their owner's home country. That single legal maneuver can exempt the vessel from VAT, import duties, and capital gains treatment in the owner's home jurisdiction. Charter the yacht commercially for even part of the year, and many jurisdictions let owners deduct operating costs as business expenses.
Roman Abramovich's Eclipse was structured this way for years, legally converting personal luxury into a depreciating commercial asset.
Economist Thorstein Veblen described goods that become more desirable as they grow more expensive. Superyachts are the purest Veblen good ever constructed. Their value to the owner rises precisely because the cost is publicly known to be obscene. In 2004, Larry Ellison commissioned Rising Sun at 138 meters to outsize David Geffen's Polaris at 115 meters. Geffen had built Polaris partly to outsize Paul Allen's Tatoosh.
Superyacht length is a public scoreboard, measured in meters, broadcast in Forbes.
Beyond status, superyachts offer something money can't easily buy elsewhere: genuine privacy.
In international waters beyond 12 nautical miles, a vessel operates exclusively under its flag nation's laws. No paparazzi jurisdiction. No public records requests. The ocean is effectively ungoverned. Here's the tension the industry doesn't advertise. A 2021 study by Utrecht University researchers found that a large superyacht emits roughly 7,000 tons of CO2 annually, more than the combined carbon footprint of 1,500 average Europeans in a single year.
the industry's response is genuine but slow. Synot Yacht Architecture unveiled Aqua in 2019, a hydrogen fuel cell concept that would emit only water vapor. As of 2024, no hydrogen superyacht has entered commercial service. The technology exists. The infrastructure does not. For owners who want to offset costs, the charter market is substantial. A 100-meter superyacht commands between $1 and $2 million per week in peak Mediterranean season. Over a 12-week charter season, a well-managed vessel can generate $20 million in gross revenue. Behind every superyacht sits an entire industry. Management companies like Fraser Yachts and Burgess handle crew hiring, provisioning, insurance, and charter bookings. A full-service management contract typically costs 2 to 3% of the vessel's value annually, on top of all operating expenses. Insurance on a $500 million vessel typically runs between 1% and 5% of hull value annually, between $5 and $25 million per year for a single policy. Hurricane season alone triggers temporary relocation costs that can add another $1 million. Maritime law requires a full classification survey every 5 years. A major refit on a 100-meter vessel, new hull paint, engine overhaul, interior refurbishment, costs between $15 and $30 million. Skip it, and the insurance voids. The vessel becomes legally unseaworthy. Unlike fine art or prime real estate, superyachts depreciate. A new vessel loses roughly 10% of its value in year 1, then 5 to 8% annually after that. By year 15, a yacht worth $100 million at launch typically sells for under $30 million. This reframes everything. Superyachts are not meant to be rational investments. Their financial inefficiency is the feature, not the bug. Only someone genuinely beyond financial concern can afford to own one. The loss itself is the signal. The signaling effect has real commercial consequences. Wealth display is a documented negotiating variable. The more unambiguous the signal, the larger the counterparty concessions. A superyacht isn't a toy. It's a permanent credential that keeps working even when the owner isn't aboard. In March 2022, following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Western governments seized superyachts belonging to sanctioned oligarchs. Tango, a 90-meter vessel belonging to Victor Vetselberg, was seized in Majorca. The world understood, suddenly, that superyachts are geopolitical instruments. The global superyacht order book hit a record high in 2023. When the order book expands, inequality is accelerating. Here's what the industry prefers to highlight. The global superyacht industry employs around 148,000 to 163,000 people worldwide. From Lerson's welders in Bremen to provisioners in Antibes to crew academies in Fort Lauderdale. The economics of extreme indulgence generate a genuine middle-class employment ecosystem. The next generation of buyers looks nothing like JP Morgan's era. Tech entrepreneurs are now a rapidly growing buyer segment. They demand sustainable propulsion, satellite connectivity for remote work, and submarine garages. The vessel is becoming a mobile headquarters. Back to that opening question, who spends $500 million on a boat used 11 days a year? They're not buying 11 days of sailing. They're buying permanent membership in a category of human beings for whom $50 million annually is a rounding error. Want proof that superyachts are financial instruments first and boats second? When Victor Vetselberg's Tango was seized in 2022, investigators traced its ownership through 3 shell companies before reaching a named individual. The Marshall Islands flag registration had legally obscured that chain for over a decade. The hull was hiding in plain sight. Next time a superyacht seizure makes headlines, look up the vessel's flag registry before reading the owner's name. That single public record will tell you more about how the owners structured their wealth than any financial disclosure they've ever filed.